Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandom at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hi folks, Joe Zagorski here with another installment of the Pigskin Past. Today we're going to be talking about Remembering the Unheralded Games Part 2. Now, as many of you know, my favorite era in pro football is the 1970s, and this next installment of the great but still largely forgotten games of the NFL's modern past is during the 1970s. Now, it can be labeled, this game, as one of the greatest playoff upsets of all time. It was certainly upsetting to the loser, believe me. The 1979 San Diego Chargers were considered by most pro football experts to have one of the most explosive passing attacks in NFL history, and certainly up to that time in history. Their roster included the likes of quarterback Dan Fouts, tight end Kellen Winslow, and wide receiver Charlie Joyner. All three of them have a bust in Canton, Ohio at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The Chargers registered a total of 411 points in 1979, one of the highest marks in the league. San Diego, as the AFC Western Division Champion, was slated to be at home for their first-round playoff game against the Houston Oilers, and the Chargers were declared to be an 8.5-point favorite over Houston. Now, the Oilers were much more adept employing their running game than their passing game, but that would not really matter when these two teams met on December the 29th. That is because practically everyone who might touch the ball on any given play in Houston's offense on this day was injured. Starting quarterback Dan Pastorini was too banged up to play. Standout wide receiver Ken Burrow was also unable to suit up. And what was perhaps the biggest shortcoming of all, their superstar running back Earl Campbell would not be able to play either. Added to all that, most of Houston's reserve players hardly saw any action at all during the regular season. All in all, the Oilers looked like they richly deserved to be labeled as extreme underdogs, and nobody seriously felt that they would win this game. But by halftime, however, an undeniable feeling was being felt by those in the stadium and those who were watching this playoff game on television. Houston actually took a 10-7 lead into their halftime locker room. Now, how did they do that? Well, they first spotted the Chargers a 7-0 lead in the first quarter on a 1-yard dive by Clarence Williams. Surely more touchdowns were just around the corner for the Chargers. But Houston would have to wait some time before they crossed their opponent's goal line, however. A 1-yard run by reserve Houston running back Boobie Clark and a 26-yard field goal by Tony Fritsch gave the Oilers the lead, like I said, at halftime. Another running back, Lydell Mitchell of San Diego, reclaimed the lead for the Chargers on an impressive 8-yard run for a touchdown. Mitchell broke a couple of tackles en route to the score there. By this time, rookie Houston defensive back Vernon Perry was already having the game of his life. He set an NFL record by intercepting an incredible 4 passes in this game. And he also blocked a Chargers field goal attempt and ran it back some 57 yards. One of Perry's interceptions set up the Oilers for what turned out to be the game's winning touchdown. The game-deciding play came on a 3rd and 11, and it was a 47-yard scoring pass from reserve quarterback Gifford Nielsen to wide receiver Mike Renfro. The pass was a medium-range heave across the middle of the field. Renfro was basically running a simple slant pattern. By the time that he finished the play, however, he had made one of the greatest and most substantial plays of his career. Once he caught the ball, he immediately managed to turn his body around and run against the flow of the pursuing San Diego defenders. Along the way, he broke one attempted tackle, then outraced 3 other Charger defenders. Somehow, someway, Renfro was able to sprint to the corner of the end zone for the score. A Renfro score gave Houston a 17-14 lead. Nothing much for San Diego to really worry about, however. That's because the entire fourth quarter and a portion of the third quarter still remained to be played. And the Chargers, as previously mentioned, had one of the most dynamic and explosive offenses in the entire NFL in 1979. But try as he might, Dan Fouts was unable to complete enough of his 47 passing attempts to reclaim the lead. As it turns out, no scoring from either team occurred during the fourth quarter. It was a head-scratcher to be sure. Houston's 17-14 triumph over San Diego was proof positive that the old adage about any team being able to beat any other team, even with numerous injuries, was still worthy of being repeated. And with this upsetting victory, the Oilers sent one heck of a statement all across the NFL landscape. Again, I'm Joe Zagorski, and thanks for listening in to this version of the Pigskin Past. Look forward to talking to you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
We here at the Sports History Network proudly partner with 26 podcasts, all revolving around the history of sports. But did you know that many of our hosts were sports history authors way before they started their shows? It's true. We've got Joe Ziemba, host of When Football Was Football, Joe Zagorski, host of Pro Football in the 1970s, Mark Morthier, host of Yesterday Sports, Tommy Phillips, host of Lombardi Memories, and Scott Adamson, co-host of From the 55-Yard Line. All these authors have many books for you to choose from. To check them out, go to our website at sportshistorynetwork.com/sportshistorybooks. Pick up your copy today. Soundtrack provided by Kevin MacLeod of filmmusic.io.